Yeah, for me, it's a question posed back to the person who's pulling that. I'm like, well, that's your filthy mind.
What does that say about you?
Exactly.
Hello, Fantastic Fest. We are here chatting Daddy's Head. Yay!
Hey.
First off, do you want to talk about that title for a second?
Yeah,
Because a lot of
sure.
people do like the weird, like an
Yeah.
eyebrow raise. Do you get that a lot?
I mean, massively. When they first came out and like everyone's emojis that they were putting up, it's just kind of like, a squirrel going, what?
Yeah.
And what I've come to realise is that I think women under 40 are basically just filthy minded, because that was not how it was for me when I was doing it. I mean, if you see the film, it's obviously like most Daddy's Head, right?
Yeah.
You're like, yeah, of course. And it kind of sounds quite punky to me. Right. But then, it wasn't until I sort of, even the actress in the film was kind of like, when, we cast her and she's like, so the title, like that. And I'm like, what? What about the title? And she's like, Daddy's Head? And I'm like, oh, and I was sort of surprised that I kind of missed it. But then what I realised is, if I said it to my mum, she's like, Daddy's Head, okay,
yes.
yeah, fine. It's amazing. Really.
Okay, I will say when I heard it, I did think of like a beheaded head. Like it's the head
Okay,
of a father.
Okay.
Literal. I took it very literally, and
There
that's
we
what
go.
I thought of, because I am a wholesome little angel. And
Well
that's
done. Well done, you.
But other people were like, what? You're going to see what? And I was like, what do you okay.
Yeah, for me, it's a question posed back to the person who's pulling that. I'm like, well, that's your filthy mind.
What does that say about you?
Exactly. It doesn't say anything about me or my choice of title.
I love it. It was very late when I watched this, so I apologize. I'm not going to describe this very well. This very cool shot of an eyeball. It pulls out of the eyeball. Do you know what I'm talking about? It's like, okay, can we talk about that shot? Can you describe it a little bit and how you achieved it?
What did I had a DJI 4D, Ronin 4D, and then there's the Isaac and Laura pulling themselves away, and then he tracks back through, but then I have a shot of an eye, and then I track back through, and then it looks like the reflection in an eye, and you come out, and there's I'm doing quite a lot of triangles in this film. Yes. I don't know whether everyone notices, but there's like triangles sort of everywhere.
A lot of triangles. You play with reflection quite a bit, but I love when there's a shot in a movie that like that's the thing you're gonna like walk away with, and it sticks in your head. Like that's a shot that I'll be thinking about. Like if someone mentions this movie to me next year or something, I'd be like, oh, the eye shot, yes.
Right, cool.
Yeah.
Well, that's what it's all about, right?
Yeah, 100%. Right. You said something very interesting. You're working with a young actor. He has to do quite a lot here, and people are always warning about working with kids, etc. He was amazing. But in the Q&A last night, you mentioned that you showed him one of my favorite movies of all time, Baz Luhrmann's Romeo and Juliet, as reference. Can you speak on that a bit?
Yeah, I wanted to instill in him, how far an actor can go, and obviously, Leonardo DiCaprio is probably a child actor. He's gone on a prolific career, and you can just see his early work, and he's like, this is why he became such a star. And so I showed it to him, going, look at how he is performing and his emotions coming out. It sort of looks like it's just coming out of his body, it's like it's overtaking him and he's losing himself. And that's where I want you to go. I want you to think about this performance. And so then there's a scene in it where he goes to the structure and he's kind of crying out for his father, and when he did it, I was just looking at him going like, you're brilliant, because his mum said to me, he just listens to everything you say. He just totally hangs on your words, and he's listening, and he's incredibly intelligent, and he's very serious. There's another thing I didn't mention, which is that I in the Q&A, it's like another thing I gave him. When I gave him that scene, I also talked to him about what boxers are like, and I was like, I'm your coach, you're my boxer, and when you sit on a table you're going to meet other older actors, but I want you all the time to be like looking down, and when you look them in the eye, like, can I swear on this?
Yeah, of course.
You're like, I'm going to fuck you up. Like, I'm fucking way better actor than you, way better. And I was kind of doing that to him, and then I ended up talking to the actor, hearing the actors chat like 10 days later, and they were like, yeah, man, when he looks at you, like when you're sitting around the table, and I'm like, yes,
you nailed it.
Yeah. So I was so proud of Rupert. He's amazing.
How old is he? He's quite young. When you shot this, he was quite young.
Yeah, well, he was 8 or 9, I think, when we first started working with him, and then he was, I guess, 12, and then just recently, I think he's just gone like, his voice has gone, everything. So we got in.
You caught him just in the nick of time.
Yeah.
Because now he gives you that look, and he has this voice too. It's a different vibe. Yeah. Can we talk about your creature design? Because the first thing that I saw about this movie, I saw the title and I saw the thumbnail of Daddy's head lit in this very particular way where it's just this face kind of emerging from the shadows. Can you talk about the design of making this kind of creature?
Yeah, I mean, the original idea came from, so I was a big Chris Cunningham fan when I was young, Come to Daddy, FX Twin, all that kind of stuff, and probably that has played a part in it in some way that, and I am someone who really enjoys the simplicity of horror a bit. I think a lot of things can be just, everyone's trying to throw things at it. I'm not criticising anyone else's horror, there's amazing films out there, but some of the best ones really are much simpler, like the term that kept on coming up to me all the time was like less is more, and actually that very much happened through the edit, even how I was using music scores and everything. So in terms of that, I just knew most of the time in my head, I was just like, it's just a face, like it's just a head just looking at you and smiling, and it's how I'll show it to you, and so in the simplest level, if you look at what the creature is, it's just something, or that's all it's trying to present to you, and the rest of it is all about shadows. So
yes,
yeah, right. It gives you an idea to the
yes.
design of it all. Yeah.
Very eerie. And when I went back to my Airbnb last night, I was a little bit upset with you because I was like, I have to get up very early. It's very late, and I'm just thinking about fucking Daddy's head. Like, I'm looking at the shadows. God damn. You filthy little minx.
Sorry, what?
I was thinking about the creepy creature in your movie.
Yeah. Sure.
Yeah, I was cursing your name at like 3 a.m. So just so you know, if you felt a weird little tinge, it was me being like, "Damn you!"
Sure. Well, great. I'm so happy. This is why we're here, right? I mean,
Yes.
That's why, yeah. That was.
I wish that would have been like my 8 p.m. movie, and not like I watched this at 2 a.m. and it's fresh in my head and I got to go to sleep.
Yeah. I mean, I love it because I just, often as a filmmaker, you're sort of looking at how you fixed it with sellotape and masking tape and and everything.
Yeah.
It's like, so you're just sat there, and I was watching it last night, just going. It's such a different experience. I scored it as well, so so I scored the music and I edited it. I did some of the VFX. Like, I'm so close to it that I'm just like, I watch it like that. Like, is anyone buying this? But I knew they were, because Lisa Dreyer has been so. Like, she's been talking about it so much,
Yes.
and me being here in Austin, I was kind of going, okay, well, like, there's people say, I guess it's working. But I'm just so happy that they found it scary.
Was last night the first time you've watched it with an audience, or have you experienced it with other people before?
I had a cast and crew showing, so like we showed it to the whole
Okay.
team when it was finally done, and like there was quite a lot of laughter last night, and I'm glad that had happened to me one time before in the cast and crew showing, because I sort of came out, I was like, there's people laughing quite a bit, and they were like, no, laughing tension, like,
Yeah.
and I was
An
like,
uncomfortable chuckle. Right?
yeah, and there was a lot of it last night. So that's an amazing indication.
Yes.
That really is. It's like, I find that really rewarding, because I'm like, I've got you, like, brilliant,
Okay.
and I'm so grateful to people coming out and watching it.
That's good. You weren't offended, like, why the fuck are you laughing? You understood that it's attention.
Yeah,
At first, you were a little bit like, what the fuck?
If I hadn't known the first time around, I probably would have worried me a lot. But
Yeah.
that's what I mean, is I could picture a version of myself where Lisa hadn't said all this, the wonderful stuff that she had said, and I'd had all these brilliant meetings since I've been out here, which has been so good. And that I already knew that people if I just went in that blank and I sat there and there's all these people laughing, I'd be like, oh shit.
Oh, no.
Like, so
I'm glad you had a little bit of primer, though, then to understand, like, no, it's the laughter of, it's the good kind, where it's I'm very uncomfortable.
Yeah, because you just don't, you're sensitive as a filmmaker. It could be like, kind of like, are they just laughing at like how shit the thing looks?
Yeah.
Like,
Yes.
but yeah.
I imagine that's kind of, it's a two-sided kind of thing where it can be very fucking cool to sit in a giant theater with everybody and feeling that energy, but at the same time being just hyper aware of absolutely every sound and every, like, oh God, he sneezed, is that a bad thing? Oh, they're coughing, is that a bad thing?
Yeah, you definitely do. You definitely
Yeah.
do. People leaning forward, or people sort of even, they shuffle around. You just can't, you're always a bit like, how's this going down? It's a really hard, I did a comedy before this, and that's just like, it's just like a register constantly all the time. It's like, bam, we're laughing, like, okay, they're with me. So, but when it's silence and horror and suspense, there's not many indications. So.
Very interesting you went from comedy to this, because it's so the opposite of comedy. It's not a horror comedy. It's very silent. So silent that it's one of those ones I ordered popcorn and then I couldn't really eat it, because I was and I was also sitting very close to you. So I put one kernel in my mouth and I was like,
shut up.
And I was like, and I just like froze for a minute and waited for some kind of sound to be like, so.
That's great. That's amazing. Yeah, no, well, I did comedy just purely because I mean I'm a filmmaker, as in like there's nothing I'm not like I'm go for this, I go for this. I'm very open-minded. There's so many things I want to do, but the first guy I met, he was a comedy horror guy, and we just got together and started making that. I did a lot of comedy as a kid. I love comedy. It's brilliant fun. I've got so much respect for comedians. So that an opportunity opened up. I went for it, took it. But then this is the first film where I was like, okay, you can kind of do what you want, or certainly someone said to me like, have you got a horror? And I was like, yeah, I have. I got one in my head. And like, so here we are with that. But it's funny that you're saying with all the kind of, you know, not being able to eat your popcorn. I mean, that's all, because that's sort of the thing I was saying with like scoring it and editing it. Like so much of what happened was me taking stuff out in the end. Like just like, I'm not going to put any music in here because it seems to be working better. That I'm just like, it's much more scary in a way if you're just going, I'm not going to say anything.
Yes, it makes it very uncomfortable,
Yeah.
and the tension starts.
It's like someone staring at you like
Yes,
that, isn't it? And you're
yeah.
like, can you stop doing it?
And then you're like, I'll hold the gaze to be polite, but now it's starting to feel weird.
Exactly.
It's that.
It's much more that world. So I'm like, that's a much better play rather than bang, bang, you know,
Yes.
so you can all get a bit bombastic maybe,
Right,
you know?
yes.
And you kind of sort of get a bit numb to it maybe after a
Yes.
while, possibly, depending on how well it's done.
Right.
You know? Yeah.
Did this kind of turn you on to doing more horror? Like if you were to choose your ideal next project, would you want to go comedy or horror?
No, I mean I have another film that I'm writing at the moment, which is like a psychological thriller horror. I mean, I was saying to someone in a bar last night, I was kind of like, there'll always be a bit of an edge to my work. I hate edge. I said to him, I'll always put salt in my chocolate, which is like, I'm never someone who's like, I just want to make it pure like that way. You're right. I want to offer contrast. I always want to put something against it. I don't think the real world is soft and light, and it's complicated and it's difficult. And so so if I did comedy, if I did drama, if I did there's always I want to use a better word than edge, just a cut to it or something, right?
Right.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Well, I get what you mean though by that. I think you guys get what that.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. I hope so. I don't know. Maybe I'm talking complete
Yeah.
bullshit. I don't know.
No, I didn't. When you said an edge, I didn't think you meant like, oh, because I'm edgy. Like I said, it just means a kind of like, it's not just like, this is just a comedy. Or this
Exactly.
Is
Or, you know, and if I do a horror, I'm just not going straight in on kind
Right.
of like, you know, then I'm like, okay, well, I want to sort of balance it out with how something feels.
a
And,
little bit of a
you know.
blend. We're
Yes,
blending
yes,
things.
yes.
You're a mixologist.
Exactly.
That's not better than edge, but that's what I got for you. Ooh. Do you want to talk a little bit about kind of the inception of this? You kind of spoke upon it. It's the boy loses his father, and that's kind of how this all kicks off. So it's
Yeah.
very much steeped in grief and trauma.
Yeah. The basic level of it is I think I probably I had a shot in my head of a kind of boy talking to his father's head, and then the camera turns around and you reveal that he's not, you know, the head's not connected to something. And then I, for some reason, always held on to that shot for years and years. I just couldn't figure out. I was like, I don't know what it is. I just really like about that. And then I wrote a story in my head in a couple of days, and it was the same film but a bit more different. It was about this boy's relationship with what was visiting him, and then I just kept holding on to that, thinking that's really cool. And then finally Matt, the producer, was like, you know, have you got a horror? And I was like, yeah, I got this film, Daddy's Head, which he didn't question at all. And then I wrote it all and I did it, and he was really happy, and he was like, great, let's make this movie. And it went through incremental changes, just through things that were happening, like budgets and casts and blah, blah, blah. Like changes happen, but essentially it was all the same. But anything I added in anyway, I finally found myself just before we were about to go into production. And then I kind of went home and visited my family home, and where I used to live when my parents got divorced, and I just like burst into tears. And then I kind of wandered around the area, and I was like crying a lot. I was like, I think I need to just go and revisit my childhood a little bit and look at it. And then I went and had a small round of therapy, and it was great. And we talked about it a lot, and then she just said, "What's your film about?" And I said, "Oh, it's." And I read it. I told it to her, and she was like, "My God, you've been writing about this the whole time," which is essentially like a boy's longing. You know, my parents divorced. We lived in a big family home. My parents divorced. I went to then not seeing my father very much. He married a woman who probably didn't really want me around very much, particularly. Mum was kind of drinking maybe around that part. You know, my parents are wonderful and I love them. I'm not, you know, but I just look at it all and kind of go, wow, okay, I dreamt up what I thought was just a cool idea and kept holding on to it for like 20 years, only to realize that I'm like, it's all integrated into my past, and my brain's come up with this idea that reflects my feelings around family and trauma and longingness for parents and all that kind of stuff.
It's like all of that was marinating in there and kind of surfaced without
Doing
you
its own
realizing
thing.
it. Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm like thinking, oh, I'm just doing like a cool thing. I'm just doing a cool thing to be like really scared. And actually by the end, once I started to realize all of that, I mean, there had been signals in it a bit anyway, I think, because I had kept saying to myself all the time when I was changing things and working on it, going like, remember you're doing a horror, like, keep remembering it, because I was getting so into the characters and the relationship and the dialogue and just because there's actually quite a lot missing from this film now. We took half an hour out, so there are a lot more scenes.
What was in that half hour that you removed?
What was in that half hour? Yeah, more of the relationship between the boy, a little bit more sort of drama stuff, longer scenes. It's a whole scene where she sort of has a panic attack when he first dies, and Robert's kind of watching her, and you can kind of see it in one scene, like, when they go into the room, and the first time you see Robert and her together, don't you remember? Yes. And she just looks like really exhausted, going like, he hates me, and he's like, bullshit, he doesn't hate you. If you look at her eyes, she looks absolutely, and that's because she's just been going mental in the room for like 3 minutes, like, and she's kind of then sat down and tried to calm us, but I just come in on that moment. So there's lots of things like that are missing.
Is it hard to cut something like that though? Because in the moment, I'm sure it takes so much to get that shot. It's demanding of your actor, it's demanding of you to get to that point, and then to remove it in service of the story. That's big time killing your babies.
Yeah, it is, and it's really. I'm really enjoying this interview, by the way. Thanks.
Oh, thank you so much.
It is. It is really hard, but I think that is the ultimate test and skill of a filmmaker, right? Yes. It's kill your baby. I'm like, okay.
Yeah. You have to be willing to do that in service of the greater good.
To know in the thick of it all, and it's all coming at you, and there's a billion things, keeping yourself straight and keeping your eye on the prize, and that's through don't being blinkered, listen to what everyone's saying around you, and understand this film through their eyes, and you make a call where you want the film to land, because there's lots of variations to it, right? Yes. So you're just trying to pick the one that's like, that's going to hit the best, I think, of the theme and the point I'm trying to make. Yes. So a scene like that with him and Laura, it was like the producers, and then even some of the test screenings, people were going, "Whoa, that's a bit much." Yeah. It's just a bit much, like just a really heavy way to start. And I'm like, okay, that goes,
And then, gone. All right. Thank you so much. You guys can watch Daddy's Head coming to Shudder. Yay.